Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. With me today, I have Mr. Daniel Metcalf, co-founder of CyberFin. CyberFin provides cybersecurity specializing in the insurance and financial sector. Daniel has an extensive background in cybersecurity and IT. We might get into that as well today. So looking forward to him educating us today on how we can better protect our small businesses. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hey, thanks for having me. So honored to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Got to know Daniel a little bit. CyberFin just set up recently our cybersecurity. Really happy with that. Really happy to be above board with the state and properly protected as all of our insurance agencies and small businesses should. So and it was really impressed with the process. So really look forward to learning more about everything CyberFin does today and a little bit about you. And so why don't we start there? Why don't you tell us about a little bit about your background and tell us how CyberFin was created.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So again, Daniel Metcalf, I'm the co-founder and president of CyberFin. I have the best job at CyberFin. I get to do all the education and build all the services and all the systems because my whole background has been in providing technology solutions to business challenges. So I spent 15 plus years in the insurance, banking, financial institutions, financial services world, bringing technology solutions to their business challenges, whether it's from e-commerce or digital marketing, IT, cybersecurity, physical security, and bringing the teams together as well to help manage that. And that's what CyberFin is. CyberFin is a service. We're a cybersecurity service simplifying cybersecurity for insurance agents and financial services brokerages and their customers. So I'll give you the story real quick, Brad, on how CyberFin was born out of insurance. So my co-founder and business partner, Chris Steffel, still owns a life insurance wholesale agency. Through a mutual friend, he was introduced to me because he's like, hey, Daniel, in 2019, insurance agencies now are regulated under HIPAA if they take personal health information. So that's going to include life insurance, senior health insurance, employee benefits, you name it, right? Then it started including more PCI, credit information, personal identifiable information. Like we're regulated now, and I'm just not feeling very comfortable that I'm able to protect my clients' data. Will you come look at it for me with your experience in banks and credit unions? I'm like, sure, I'll take a look at it. And unbeknownst to him, after spending 90 days and $30,000 on what he believes, as a techie person, what he believed as protection, he was neither protected nor compliant. So that set off the whole, well, can you build me something, right? Can you build me something for my agency through a mutual friend? I said, absolutely. So we put together a cybersecurity service and that came with a tech stack and with the actual people to manage it, right? For his agency. He's like, hey, I have a whole set of customers of other agency owners and independent brokers who aren't going to know how to protect themselves, right? From the right technology, and B, probably have no idea that they're being, what the fines are going to be, what they need to have to be compliant and all those. Let's go do this for for those customers of mine too. So that's where CyberFin was born. So we created a company together so that we could go and protect his customers from that side. And then it just went throughout the country, right? So we've been in business for 4 years. We represent insurance agencies all over the country. We're in 20 some states from time zone to time zone, and we're actually starting to work internationally now too. Wow. About a year and a half ago, Brad, one of our insurance agency friends called us and said, hey, what you're doing for us is great. I have a customer who is trying to get renewed for cyber liability insurance, and they got denied. Can you look at their stuff? Can you help me with the underwriting? We need to get them insurance. So I did. I said, yeah, go ahead. Send me the application. We went through the application together. We showed them where the protocols needed to change. And so we added the CyberFin protocols. They actually got the insurance, right? So they got approved. They went through underwriting and they'd been through a breach before. they had better premium than they had before and higher coverage types. So we have the two sides of the business. Not only are we protecting insurance agencies, but we're helping them with their clients as well and protecting their clients.
Yeah. Wow. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what it is that you actually do with the security. So,
Sure.
in that example, and I've seen that too. It's on just about every cyber liability application of what
Mhm.
kind of security you have. So what does, and I know you have different levels
Mhm.
of protection that you offer.
Yep.
What are typically the levels of protection that are required to be compliant?
Yeah, so we really break it down into two. Again, our whole goal is to make it simple, right? We break it down into two separate categories. Whether it's for cyber liability insurance, whether it's to protect yourself, or whether it's for compliance, it really comes down to two buckets. You have the you need to have reasonable cybersecurity put into place, right? Is your first bucket. Your second bucket is you need to be able to remediate, report, and recover any data breach that's going on from that standpoint. And I can break those down for you. So what we offer as cybersecurity as a service, let's start with the protection side, right?
Yep.
We have a cyber posture that's a little different than what's been going on prior to about 4 years ago, right? Our posture is instead of putting cybersecurity around the castle, right, around the
Yep.
business, let's put cybersecurity and layered cybersecurity between each person, each user within the company, right down to the one user. So even an independent broker or independent company can use it and do this. And that when we talk about what does reasonable cybersecurity looks like, I'm going to tell you the factors real quick on what that
Yeah.
looks like. It starts with endpoint protection. You need to make sure that you have endpoint protection on each device that's being monitored 24/7. The second is you need to make sure every inbound email is being filtered for certain types of attacks, business email compromise, malware, ransomware, things like that. The next is you need to have a secure internet portal and make sure that any data that's being transferred from that internet portal is being monitored, right? That it's a secure portal and it's a private connection. And then you need to make sure you have multi-factor authentication included. So those four things, right, are what each cyber liability insurance is going to look for, right, or the state, or even just to be protected. And you need all of those around every single user, not just the company as a whole, right? When they're in and out of the office or, in one location, it has follow them around wherever they go. That's how you're going to severely lower your risk to an attack and from a finer or to make sure that you get the best insurance possible, be able to give the best insurance. It's those four things. So when we talk about the other side, which is can you remediate, can you report, and can you recover? Those are the other side of the services, right? So do you have your backups in place, right? Are your backups off domain, or do you have a solid state backup if you have on your devices, right, or both? Are you making sure that you have incident reporting? Do you have a way of being able to report to each state that you have to report to each of the associations like HIPAA or FINRA or the SEC or FTC, right? Do you have the right reporting structure in place? Do you have a written information security policy in place? So that you know how to react and respond to this, right? Letting your customers know, letting the employees know, right? Being able to do credit restoration if necessary. And then can you recover? Can you recover that data? Do you have the right backups in place so that you can recover, so that if it's under ransomware, you can say, yep, nope, we're good. I can go recover that data somewhere else, right? So your customer feels good that their data has not been compromised, that you can go in and do that. So those are the two levels that we provide. So you can either have us do protection or you can have us do protection and compliance. It's whatever you as the agency owner don't want to have to manage, or the
Yeah.
business owner, right?
Yeah.
Because you didn't go to, I don't know about you, Brad, but I don't think you went to school to become a cybersecurity guard,
No,
right?
I didn't go to school to
Um,
become an insurance agent either, but you're right.
exactly. But I don't think that you, from what I can tell, you appreciate doing insurance more than cybersecurity,
Yeah. Yeah.
from that standpoint.
So there's a lot there, and we'll try to
Mhm.
keep it, basic as we can.
Yeah.
And I do have about probably with this sort of thing about a fourth grade education. So what is the endpoint protection that you're
Yeah.
essentially putting on the systems?
Perfect. So just to give some context, our multi-layered solution means it's all three of those layers I talked about: endpoint protection, email protection, internet protection, and then multi-factor authentication. It's all layered together in one tech stack.
Yep.
It's not our tech stack. It's enterprise level tools that I'll talk about individually, all meshed together that we put on the user's device, email, internet usage, and it's all monitored and managed 24/7, 365 at CyberFin Security Operations Center. That's located in Minnesota, but is separate. It's distributed throughout the entire country. So let's talk about endpoint protection. Endpoint protection is antivirus on steroids, right?
Yeah.
Our endpoint protection in particular that we use, it looks for anomalies on the computer, right? So it's not just saying, hey, here's a database of viruses that we've heard out there. Is this coming into the computer? It's doing that, and it's looking for the different anomalies within the device to say, hey, this document's not supposed to be there. Hey, for some reason, this software is sending traffic through the internet to Russia, right? So it can stop and recognize it and stop it, and all the different alerts and anomalies it's looking for. It's actually monitoring that and then letting a human know, hey, this is going on right now. I think we need to take care of this, right? And then a human gets involved, and that's the security operations center. That's endpoint protection.
Okay. So, and then on the which you and I talked previously, to me, probably the most common threat to us is, or what I have found to be the most common threat is email is
100%.
protection,
Yep.
and most of the breaches come from employee error. Responding to a link they shouldn't. Maybe they received a bogus invoice, went to the bookkeeper, got paid, whatever it is. Talk about what the filtering process looks like, how that helps protect us.
Yeah, so what we call email threat prevention is the name of the tool. And what it does is it filters every single email that comes inbound of all the users inside your email platform, whether it's Outlook or Google Workspace, right? And what it's doing is not only is it looking for, again, it's always about anomalies, right? We're looking for anomalies inside the emails themselves, right? Is the attachment not really an attachment, it's a link? Is it look like it's a phishing email? Does it look like it's a spear phishing email? Does it look like it has nefarious code in the background? And it's reading, right, not reading the data, it's reading the context of the email to make sure that, okay, is this a legitimate email? Is it coming from a legitimate source? Should it really go into the inbox? If it at any time it doesn't, it goes into a quarantine, right? That you have access to any time. It goes into a quarantine report and says, hey, this is an advanced threat. We know this is a bad email. You can't do anything with it. We're just telling you it's an advanced threat. Or it's like, hey, we think this is spam. But if you really think you needed it, you can release that email, right? That's kind of and it's filtering all that. Now, one of the keys to our email threat prevention that others don't have is we rewrite, because you're talking about employee issues, right? So first of all, we slow everybody down because, hey, we're making sure the email should actually end up in their inbox or not, right? The second thing is we rewrite all the URLs. So our software rewrites the URLs so that it goes through our private network in our servers first. So if you click on a link, it goes, hey, is this supposed to be going to the right place? Is this link bad link? It actually rewrites over top of it so that our software can go, hey, is this a legitimate website it's supposed to be going to, or is this something that's actually supposed to happen? So that kind of takes away some of the user error on that side of it. And lastly, we have a remediation system. And what that means is that if we see one email is nefarious and it's not supposed to be there, our tool can, and our engineers can reach into the email boxes of everybody and pull that email out of there. That way, you don't have to wait for the Brad Bolt email that comes out that says, hey, don't click on this email or don't open it, right? What's the first thing everybody wants to do? Open it and click on it. But this allows us to go and actually remediate the emails and takes that employee onus off, right? Because we're removing it. It freaks people out because, in Outlook, you get that little notification that pops up that says, hey, you got an email. Then all of a sudden they go in the inbox and it's not there. Like, ooh, that's scary. But it's a way that we can make sure that we slow down the bad guy. And by having that layered protection, the endpoint, the email, and that internet protection together, you now can tell, hey, it's just like anything else, right? If they get through the one set of, cyber criminals have ROI too, right? It's all about return on investment. Hey, they got one layer of protection. If I get through that first layer, I might keep going. If I see a second layer of protection, man, I'm just done with this. This is too much work. I'm going to go on to the next guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same side on the user error. the more gates that we put in there to slow people down to say, is this legitimate? Should I be, should I be clicking on this? Should I be doing something with this? Or just removing it out of their line of sight allows you to severely lower the risk
Yeah.
of an attack.
My own theory. Do you think that these phishing emails have improved with AI? Because I receive at least one a day,
Hmm.
and most of the time they're so blatantly obvious, right? But I
Right.
feel like they've gotten better over the course of the last, maybe year,
Hmm.
where they're just, and so I wonder if that's because a lot of it is, um, maybe it's whatever, it's just improper English or just not
Right.
how you'd speak. I mean, but I feel like that I don't see as many of those.
Right.
Is there any evidence of that at all? Do you know?
Yes. Absolutely. So think about from the standpoint of a criminal, right? Because of the introduction of AI, because of the introduction of some tools, it is now more return on investment for them, right? They're going to get more money and steal more money because they can now hit 1,000 small business owners at a time and agency owners at a time, where instead of 1,000 attacks against a big company, right? So they can actually collect more by going after the volume of majority companies than one big company. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to find a way to perfect their system, and just like all of us and Mark using AI, right, to try to not
Yeah.
only to try to continue to learn, but they don't get tired. They don't have to worry about writing a script. They don't have to test things out. AI doesn't, right? So they're using that
Mhm.
as a way to build better and better and better, and not only that, but execute more attacks at a time. Right. So by saying, hey, yeah, I never click on those things, or oh yeah, I'm pretty good about it, or my employees,
Yeah.
we do a good job educating, you probably do. But the bad guys know that too. And so they're going to try to find a way around it because it's a $3 trillion cybercrime's a $3
Right.
trillion industry. They're going to find a way to nation states entire GDPs for certain programs, right? We're not just going against kids in their basements anymore. I shouldn't stereotype, but
Yeah.
it's entire countries' armed forces are doing this as a
Hmm.
way to try to make money for their country.
What are you seeing common specific in the insurance industry from breaches and from cyber criminals?
Yeah, 100%. So this is why one of the other reasons why CyberFin became in existence is we saw a agency in the middle of Illinois, right? Been in business for 25 years, right? Just minding its own business and providing insurance through business email compromise and through them getting their credentials into a quoting engine, ended up having 25,000 records stolen from a quoting engine using their credentials. That company said you're liable for all that data being stolen.
Jesus.
So then that agency couldn't pay for the remediation, couldn't pay the fines, couldn't pay the reputation hit that it took for being responsible for that issue. So they are gone off the planet, right? Went out of business, shut the doors. All those people for all those years that relied on them to give insurance in the middle of Illinois, no, had to find a different option. That's why CyberFin's in existence today. We never won't want to see another agency go out of business for something that's preventable, like protect themselves from business email compromise, from losing their credentials being given up on a carrier, for a carrier quoting engine, or for their CRM, or someone's all their health information gets downloaded. We never want to see that happen again. That's our mission at CyberFin. That's what we're trying to do. And so that's the number one fear,
Hmm.
right? Or that's the number one thing that should keep an agency owner up at night, that they're looking to try to use you as a way to make more money. They're trying to use
Yeah.
you and your data and your access through business email compromise, phishing, spear phishing. We talked about those, right? And through finding and getting your credentials to use it against you, or to
Yeah.
or just sell the data on the dark web and make a couple bucks.
Um, what what are some other the security practices that business owners should implement to protect their company's data, their customers' data?
Yeah.
Is this all kind of encompassing, say in the CyberFin package, or what should we be doing to protect our data?
Yeah, layered security is the first thing to think about, right? How are we layering our security? Yes, and it is complete and comprehensive with the CyberFin solution because we're a service, right? We're a
Yeah.
managed service for cybersecurity, and so we have to be comprehensive. And so it's the layered security, making sure every single employee has multi-factor authentication, before they can access the device or access any type of email or customer data. Make sure that your endpoints are being monitored 24/7. Make sure that you have every email being filtered on the way in. Make sure that you're under a secure internet portal, especially if they're working from home. If you have, if they're shared
Mm.
Wi-Fi with the person that has, maybe they have a partner, or spouse, or kids that like to play video games, right? So those video games, like, they have huge open internet portals that they work off of. They could certainly get into your network through those internet portals, right? So you have to think about, how do we put the layered security around everybody in the environment that they're working in, whether it's a Starbucks, it's inside an office building, or it's at their home, or all three of them all within a given day, right? And then be able to make sure that all that data is backed up and can be recovered. So with off-domain backups, not just backed up to a OneDrive that's already on your domain, but backed up on another solution so that if something were to happen, boom, you can get it remediated, right? And so part of the CyberFin solution, when I say service, it's zero cost remediation. So if we have to go in and fix something, right, as part of just the cost of working with CyberFin with our fee, we'll actually go and fix it and work on the breach at no extra remediation cost. But you also want to make sure that we can go back and get the data if something were to happen, right? And be able to recover that data. So those are the areas that I would say that's what you need to have comprehensive within your agency or small business to protect
Yeah.
yourself.
So if we do have a breach,
Mhm.
what should our incident response plan look like? What?
So first of all, you have to have an incident response plan.
Right.
That's the first thing you should have, right? Second, my recommendation is have cyber liability insurance because it
Yeah.
comes with a breach coach, right? So you get
Yeah.
your breach coach, and you don't call the cybersecurity company first. You don't call the IT person. You don't even call the owner. The first thing, if you know it, boom, you call your breach coach, right? Because
Yeah.
they're the ones that are going to make sure that all the protocols that you've now put in place. So the things that you should have in your incident response plan is call the breach coach, make sure all that information is public, everybody knows it. Boom, we're doing that,
Yeah.
right? And then it should include all the other people that need to be notified, right?
Yep.
It should then also include, okay, how are the steps taken to identify what data that the person had access to that was breached, be able to make sure that we know that we can remediate the situation and recover the data as quickly as possible. That's what needs to be in your incident response plan. You can, obviously there's compliance individuals. There's a lot of people that can provide you that. We have a service that we can also introduce you to that can help you with those incident response plans. The other is putting policies in place. So not only is it about the response plan, but what policies are you putting in place to also have a cyber secure environment, right? Hey, policy is you only use business only devices, right? Policy is you only use business owned mobile devices. The policy is there's no social media being used on these particular devices unless it's approved and for business, right? As an example. So those policies also help having policies that we do employee awareness training on an annual basis. And then you get tests once a quarter or once a month, right? So all those things put a security mindset in your organization, and
Yeah.
that's what's going to also help you with the internal issue too, right? So
Yeah.
those are some things that, again, you can either, there's plenty of resources that you can go get yourself, or if you'd like, we have people we can refer you to, or different services we could refer you to do that.
Do you have any idea how many, say, insurance agencies, or even in the financial sector, how many of these companies, agencies have cyber liability insurance in place? And two parts of this question.
Mhm.
If you don't have statistics on it, fine. It's kind of curious on my end of things. I don't have any numbers on that. I would venture to guess it's low.
Mhm.
I don't know. And then since you guys have been in business for 3 years,
Going on
4,
four.
going on
Yep.
4,
Mhm.
how difficult of a sell is it for you guys to put in this security to specifically to the insurance industry?
Mm,
I would guess, because to me, you're right. This is something that would keep me up at night.
mhm,
I mean, I've had cyber liability insurance for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. It's been a long
mhm,
time. And we did have a breach a number of years ago. Someone hacked in, got into my email,
mhm,
sent out a message to every one of my last messages that I sent out. In fact, even this person or these criminals have a better contact list than I do.
mhm.
I would have bought my contact list.
Right, right.
Thankfully, nothing came of it as far as monetary damages. But any idea roughly the percentage of agencies that have cyber liability insurance? If you don't have it, fine. I'm just wondering if you've come across a
I'm
number like
just
that.
Yeah, so here's what I can do, right?
Yeah,
So we offer a cybersecurity assessment prior to us having any engagement with an insurance agency.
yeah,
I personally do well over 70% of those assessments myself because I want to make sure that we're getting the assessments on that side. And I bet of the 70% that I do for insurance agents, maybe 30% of the agencies actually have cyber liability insurance, would be my guess. I definitely know it's less than 50%. Um, Especially standalone policies. If they do have it, a lot of them are like an add-on to the E&O insurance that they're required to have.
right,
So then I just don't count that as cyber
correct,
liability insurance. It's
right.
more like a rider,
Yeah, it's
that
not
kind of
nearly
thing.
as in-depth protection as
Yeah,
what
and
we
the
get.
coverages just aren't there. I mean,
Yeah,
they're just not there if something were to happen. So from that side of it, and yes, it's been difficult from time to time to get insurance agencies to buy CyberFin service, and I'll give you
yeah,
the three reasons that we overcome. One is, hey, look, when we first started 4 years ago, everybody was like, "I'm too small. I'm an agent. Like, no one's ever
yeah,
gonna hit me, right?" Well, then they start seeing the stories, and they've heard of other agencies like yours, Brad, that have, and they're like, "Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, we're all under attack." So that started to go from that standpoint, but it's still out there, right? The other is that, hey, I do a little bit already, right? Is this, I have some stuff,
yeah, right.
right? I have an IT guy that sold me some stuff, right? And I love IT. You've already mentioned I do have access to
Yeah,
outsource IT services. I love IT. I think IT is great, but they're great at IT. They too did not go to school to be a
right.
cybersecurity guard, right?
Yeah,
And a lot of times they're worried about productivity. They're not worried about security. So we've talked to our IT person, and they're like, hey, oh yeah, I gave you this should do it, right? But they can't monitor it 24/7. They got to go on, they go on vacation. They don't have staff sitting around the clock looking at this kind of things. That's just not what they built their business off of, right?
yeah,
So, and that's why I still believe that it is a $3 trillion crime, is still a $3 trillion industry, because we've relied on the IT. We've just handed it over to the IT people, which it wasn't fair to them, in my
yeah,
opinion, right? They're trying the best they can. And then lastly, it's, you know, am I a do-it-yourself type of agency owner? A lot of them are, right? They've started their own agencies. They do everything themselves.
yeah,
Do I really want a third-party company to do my cybersecurity for me too, or can I do a better job doing it myself, or am I more right? And so we just have to, you know, we just need to overcome. Hey, if you want to do it yourself, I can provide you some tips and tricks, and you can as long as I feel better that you're going to follow those tips and tricks, then we hit our mission, right? If you're
yeah,
like, hey, I'd love somebody else just to do it for us, just like we hear every single day, then we're here for you, right? Well, we're going to
yeah.
manage it for you, and then you have the peace of mind that somebody knows what they're doing is doing it.
Yeah. I'm one of those dummies that's kind of a do-it-yourself guy,
Oh
which
no,
is
you're dummy.
I where I
You do it yourself.
started. And here, let me just put this VPN on, and then I'm going to put it in every one of mine. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm
Right,
doing. This is just an expense that I have to have. I mean,
right.
this is just something I need to take care of. Talk a little bit about what from a compliance standpoint, and I'm sure
Mhm.
every state is different.
Yes, it is.
Um, what does we'll talk about our state of Minnesota, what that looks like. What do
Mhm.
we have to do to be compliant in our state? And is that common throughout the rest of the country?
Yeah, and I'm just going to repeat myself. If you wanted to make a blanket statement in your many states, the two things that you have to think about for your agency is, do I have reasonable cybersecurity in place, and can I report? Right? Do I have everybody I need to report to, and can I report that incident and recover from it? Right? Within a certain time frame. Right? So if you think of yourself saying the shortest time frame is New York, which is like 48 hours. Right? So the longest time frame is like you have 30 days in many instances from that standpoint. But if
Okay.
you think of those two things, and everybody puts that in their mind, one, right? Hey, do I have reasonable cybersecurity in place? And I've already listed off what reasonable looks like,
Yep.
right? Starting with 24/7 monitoring.
Yep.
Two, right? Can I report, and do I have the right people to report to? And am I going to get it out in time? Right? Because what the DOCs are saying, and I'll talk about Minnesota. So what all the Department of Commerce and Insurance are saying is, we're not going to, and even HIPAA and NIAC are like, we're not going to go on witch hunts, right? We're going to do our due diligence and our audits. But if all we hear is from one consumer, right? Talked all over the country. If one consumer says, I believe my information was taken from this agency, that's when they're coming with the hammer, right?
Yeah.
That's when they're gonna really lock it down, and I'm sure open up the entire agency. So Minnesota says any sized agency, you need to report an incident. So even down to the one person, you have to have the
Right.
ability to report an incident. You have to have a written information security policy, right? Or an incident plan, not written
Yep.
information, but you have to have an incident policy where you can report to us if anything happens. So and they have this whole little list of things that you have to fill out, right? That a lot of agencies probably don't know that they have to be able to fill out. As your agency grows into certain sizes, right? And as you're taking on more and more data, you have to have a written information security policy in place, and you have to have reasonable cybersecurity in place, being able to monitor and be able to report an incident. That's what the
Yeah.
state of Minnesota is asking you to do. And you have to report that incident. I think the time has changed, so I'd have to look it up again, but you have only a certain amount of time that you can to report that incident. So Minnesota um, has done a great job at least bringing it to the attention that, hey, we are going to start to regulate some of this, right? Other states are much more stringent. HIPAA is very stringent. I mean, it's black and white. The fines are minimum $100, right? If you don't follow those two things I mentioned, minimum 100. Most of the fines are $50 per belly button. So $50 per people that are, of data that you contain, up to $1.5 million per year per incident. So if it's been happening for 3 years and
Mm.
it's this egregious, you could end up paying up to $1.5 million for those however many years back that they have to go back.
Do you have some examples of people that have been fined? Um, I've
I
heard through the grapevine of some
yes.
that have been very substantial. And what have you heard out there for states that have been have fined people?
Most of the fines that we, like I said, it's not very public as far as that's concerned, but the fines that we're hearing are on that level of, hey, you did not report this incident. We heard from a consumer. We're gonna fine you between, I've heard as high as 200 or as low as 250,000 to $500,000 in a fine for, right, all of these egregious things because you didn't even report to us and you don't even have anything in place to be able to recover from it or whatever it might be. So, and then it starts opening the doors into other things that they can start looking for inside your agency beyond just the cyber, right? Once they're in there, they're going to look for other things too. So those are just some examples. And that one in Illinois is the one that really what broke the camel's back on that one was the amount of fines that they were going to have to pay. Just wasn't worth it.
Right. Um, yeah, and I've heard of somebody here fairly local to me that had a $10,000 fine. After they had a breach. As if the breach isn't enough.
Right.
So and then they had to do that, which again, I don't know if that was appealed and
Right.
knocked down. Um, in any way,
Right.
it's nasty, and I believe that ours in our state came through in August of 23. Are most of the other states consistent with having regulations like we have here?
Yeah, they have decided that that the NIAC model law that you can go look up, right? The NIAC NIAC model law is one that they can use as an infrastructure that they can use in each state, and then they tweak it based on what what they feel is necessary by state, right? And I think the NIC model law has been accepted by, I think it's 23 states now or 24 states now, from that standpoint of, and they all have a different flavor of it. And then each state has their own Department of Commerce, right? Like Colorado, that I can think of, Washington, New York, the three, North Carolina. They actually can be on top of it of just being a business owner. So yes, you have your insurance one, and you have as being a business owner, and they might even have other laws and inside of that too, depending on what type of agency you are and what type of information that you're gathering and how much information that you're gathering. So it can get really confusing fast, right? So that's why
Yeah.
we're always saying, like, hey, work with somebody that can help you put the right protocols in place by the states that you're in, and then let's make sure you meet those two minimum guidelines: reasonable cybersecurity, and I know how to report.
Yeah. Let's pivot a little bit to your IT service, which I
Okay.
think, that's another area that a lot of, I know, um, insurance agencies, specifically independent insurance agencies, need help with.
Yeah.
And so talk about that company a little bit and services
Yeah.
that you can provide there.
Yeah. So we at CyberFin completely believe in the separation of uh, of the companies of IT and security. We know
Yeah.
that they should be in conjunction with each other, but they should not be the same function, right? So um, we do have based on requests from our insurance agency friends and some other companies, they've requested for, yeah, but we also need IT services too, right? But we don't need it fully managed necessarily. Some do, but a lot of times it's just, hey, do you have some IT services that we can connect to be able to do that? So um, we created IT services specifically for insurance agents, insure techs, right? So in the insurance industry, on that side, and it includes everything from help desk down to software development resources, right? So whether it's
Okay.
website development, or like if an insure tech is, needs to do some software, or if an agency wants to create some of their own custom software and customer processes, depending on the size, we also have software development. So everything in between when it comes to IT outsource that's not security sits inside instinctive IT.
Okay. So does that work on like a subscription basis, or is it a
Yep,
per
there's
time?
three different ways it works with, right? So CyberFin's complete subscription based,
Yep.
right? You know that yourself, right? It's on a per
Yeah.
user per month based on what we're putting into place, and sometimes per building depending on the size of your agency, right? It's all per user per month, no onboarding fees, no, for less than a cell phone bill, right? Half of a cell phone bill,
Mm.
you can meet those requirements, and it's all per user per month.
Which sounds pretty reasonable because I've checked out outsourcing of IT, and some of them can be 300, $500 a month.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
ours on average is $65 per user per month
wow.
on average for on the cybersecurity side. On the IT side, we do it a little different because we know the level of what many agencies need for IT support. It could be once a month, right? Patch update, updating our computers. Maybe we need to replace a computer. Maybe I have my old 365 is down again, or I need
Oh,
to add a SharePoint folder or something like that, right? So we have that pay as you go model, right? You pay,
okay.
right? You can even, if you need a budget, well, you'll say, hey, I need a certain amount of hours, like we call it a bucket of hours, right? I just want to make sure that I know that I'm paying you, you know, $200 to $300 a month, and yet you're going to use those hours and it gets done, right? But at least way I can flatline my budget, and then we have to call them to
Hmm.
say, hey, we need more hours. Um, the last version is you can do it on a larger, saying, hey, I want an annual bucket of hours that is split up per month that we were able to do it. But we don't do the all you can eat managed service idea, right? Because it ends up being harder for agencies to say, okay, well, I pay $1,000 a month, let's say, or $500 a month, and they want to do a project and they want it to all fit underneath that hourly rate, right? And then becomes that conversation. We would rather say, let's get your IT done right. Let's fit within your budget. Let's have those conversations each time and have that white glove treatment than just hey, throw you in the help desk and right, and then you're just going to get treated like everybody else. We don't believe that in IT.
Yeah. I mean, and for me, for an IT need, however many computers we have, 8 or something, I might
Yep.
need it 3 times a year or
Right.
something like that. It's fairly
Right.
small.
Right.
Um, if people want to, first of all, what's the name of the IT service? I know you said it. I wouldn't, but what's the name of the IT service?
It's McKendon.
Oh, okay. Okay. And if people want to get a hold of you, and I would strongly recommend it on the cybersecurity side through CyberFin, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
So I definitely come through the cybersecurity door first, and then we can move you over
Yeah.
to the IT if that's and it's DM Daniel Metcalf DM at cyberfin.net.
Okay. And I'll put that in the show notes.
Yep. You can find us on
Um,
cyberfin.net. There's a big button there that you can get your own cyber assessment. Because, like I said, we all start with cyber assessment from that side of it and help you out.
and the name of your website?
Cyberfin.net.
Yeah. And I think if I remember right, when I went on there, it basically tells you everything that you want to know right on your site. Gives pricing, right?
Right.
I mean,
The pricing we don't
pricing and
talk
everything.
about because, again, we want to make sure that's custom for you. But on average,
Yeah.
our price is $65 per user per month. But it does explain to you everything that's in the service. It explains you what we're going to do for you, how the onboardings work,
Yeah.
what the different technologies are. They're all right there for you.
Okay. Well, I was thinking it was on there for some reason. Maybe
Mm-mm.
it wasn't. Um,
In the future, we're thinking about doing it.
okay. Okay. Daniel, this has been super insightful. Again,
Good.
if you don't have security in place, strongly recommend you checking it out. It's a great service. They specialize in insurance agencies. It's something that we just have to have an expense for. We just have to protect our companies and our customers' data. Daniel, thank you very much for taking the time joining me today.
Fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and it's been great to kind of get to know you and your system. So yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Everyone
Honored
else,
to be here. Appreciate it.
yeah, everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. And we'll see you next week.